Hello and welcome to the Best Talks. I'm Omkar Chaudhary. In this show, we are in conversation with tycoons of today. So there was a leading newspaper in India which took a poll, and the poll was all about the insignificant occupations. An artist. This is the occupation which ranked number one, or rather topped that particular list. So today we are in conversation with Pawan Rochwani, who is a co-founder at the Platform for Artists. Pawan, it was literally difficult to chase you, and finally I chased you and brought you on the show. So I'm very proud of myself, and I'm really appreciate your presence on Best Talks, wherein we are in conversation with tycoons of today.
Thank you so much, Omkar. I think COVID was pretty hectic for us because we were trying to, move everything digital because we were majorly in offline experiences. So that's why, but my apologies. I didn't intend to make you chase me. I'm happy to do this conversation and really looking
Wonderful. Yeah,
forward.
you need not be sorry because definitely understanding your work pressure and body of work, I can definitely understand that and interpret that you are a quite busy man. Right. So without wasting any time, quickly tell me, like amidst the pandemic, how are you dwelling with this artist, with this clients, and with this brands? Because there are certain more questions, the serious topics that I'll be taking in the long run in the conversation. But amidst this pandemic, how are you dwelling with whole factors that are around you?
So the playground has completely changed. It's if I have to give a cricket metaphor and analogy here, it's like playing in India and now playing in Australia or the UK. So the playground for artists and clients and hiring artists and all those things has pretty much changed entirely because um, first of all, hiring has reduced. There are no offline events that are happening, and every artist is now thinking that okay, maybe let's build our online presence. So when they're trying to build the online presence, that has become very competitive. It's not like okay, everyone is sitting at their home, so everyone is going to consume that content. The content space has also become really competitive, and at the end of the day, every consumer has like what, 24 hours only. So initially it was pretty difficult for us, but slowly we had to adapt to it. We had to evolve ourselves according to the pandemic, and now I would say now I'm pretty much used to it. So it's like now it's going good.
All right. So now somewhere you have acclimatized yourself to the current scenarios which are happening around the industry.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
So when lockdown was announced, what was the first notion that came to your mind? Because was it, let me be honest with this question, was lockdown an adversity to you or was it quite fruitful?
I think when it happened, we were pretty. I mean, we were pretty much disheartened because we already had certain plans. Let's say, for example, when we are deciding to do a big event or like a line of events or a series of events, we start planning for that at least 3-4 months before. We were planning and collaborating with artists, partnerships with venues, marketing campaigns and all those things and things like that. And we're also blocking our calendar for like next 2-3 months. So the most disheartening thing for us was that all our efforts from, let's say, December and January, it had to completely be changed. So in the beginning it was a little disheartening. I wouldn't deny that we were feeling a little sad and regretful about it. But then it's also to understand that this is nobody's fault, right? It's not like Omkar has done this to PFA or we ourselves has done this to our business or things like that. So we start off slowly started accepting it, and once we started accepting it, we kind of aligned our thoughts then to how can we make this situation fruitful to us. And in the beginning, when you're in the event space or in the offline experiences space, the majority and the major concern that you have is how will you bring engagement within that particular webinar or within that particular digital event. So initially that was a challenge for us, but then we sort of over the period of let's say around April and May, we got a hang of it, and we were like, okay, now we can make this fruitful, and now we are trying to make the pandemic more fruitful for us.
So basically it was a transformation from an adversity to taking an advantage of that adversity.
Exactly, because this is more like any other problem. Let's say tomorrow your organization is facing any kind of challenge. What obviously initially you're feeling like, oh, why this problem came to us, but then eventually you try to solve that problem and make it fruitful, and just try to go back to the game that you were in. So that's how it was for us this pandemic also. The only difference this is that this is a way serious problem, and this is a way
Right.
bigger problem, which has affected the entire market. Initially, organizations, when they face challenges and problems, it's very respective and specific to to that organization circle itself. But this is like changing the entire market. So I think that was a little difficult. But again, as an entrepreneur, I'm pretty sure every business man and every entrepreneur would try to just evolve and use this crisis as an opportunity also.
Very true, very true. And Pawan, coming back to the mainstreams, talking about social media. So recently, I was in conversation with Saloni Srivastava, and she beautifully quoted the words like, if you're talking about social media and taking it as a career, then definitely it takes time because it's a public-oriented industry, I would say, and it's like at least you need to invest around 3 to 5 years into it, a consistent effort, and then slowly and steadily you start earning revenue. It's unlike the corporates that you get into it, you have promotions, you get bulk amount of money. It's not like that. It takes a lot of hard
Yeah,
work and efforts. And many
yeah,
people in this journey of 3 to 5 years, they tend to just say that, oh, this is not happening. I'm not able to generate the revenue. They sort of drop off. So in
yeah.
this kind of a situation, in this kind of a circumstances, how do you drive your liquidity? How do you drive your sales?
So this is something that I tell, or probably is like a quote that I have. I tell everyone that content game is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So it's not like okay, I'll create an account today. I'll use certain growth hacks on LinkedIn or Twitter or let's say YouTube, whatever that platform is, and then in the 6 months of time, you will have those 10,000 hours of watch time, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's not like that. It's really a marathon. It's not a sprint. You cannot just think that okay, for the next 2 months I'm going to focus on my YouTube, for the next 2 months I'm going to focus on my LinkedIn. It's not easy as that, because uh, it's also interlinked to a new term that the content world is creating, and all these new terms come from the US market, which is like we are now living in a trust economy. Even if you're a content creator, every piece of content, let's say it's an Instagram story or a tweet that you put out, you're trying to build more trust with the consumers of that content. And every time you put out a piece of content which is not your style, which is not your segment, you're sort of going to lose that trust with your consumer. So I think
Right.
this is something that I keep telling everyone who's going to use social media uh, to monetize it and to make a living out of it, that we're living in a trust economy, and that content game is a marathon and it's not a sprint. And I think what Saloni and you might have discussed is something very very apt, that you have to invest certain amount of time. You have to, unless and until you create cringe content, then you cannot go viral. Like let's say for example Dinchak Puja can go viral with one video itself. Like she can create a small 1 minute video and she will go viral. She'll be all over the internet. So as long as if you create cringe content, then all these things don't apply to you. But if you're
Okay.
focused on creating value driven content, and if you're focused on creating quality content, then I think it takes a little longer time. And once you achieve that, once you build that trust with let's say 10,000 people also, then those 10,000 people in a slow fake model, they will itself bring more subscribers and more followers to you. So I think
Right.
that's pretty correct what you have discussed with Saloni.
All right. Also talking about platform for artists, it's a kind of a amalgamation between a client, between an agency, brand, and an audience. So in this times of social media, what we just discussed, like when revenue earning is quite a tough game. It's like a marathon. So what is your business model like? And I would really like to have insights about how do you guys generate revenue?
So we work under two verticals. One is community building vertical, if you want to say. That's one is community building or community development, where we are trying constantly connect with as many artists from across the country, from every kind of art segment that there is: photographers, writers, musicians, dancers, everybody. So we're constantly trying to build that community through offline events or online projects or content. It can be the podcasts or blogs, anything like that. So we're constantly trying to build that community. The second vertical is more like a gig marketplace, where we help brands and organizations hire artists through us. Let's say somebody is looking for a senior graphic designer, which is a full-time employment. So they come to us and we help them hire that senior graphic designer. Or let's say if you are a if you're an events company and you're looking for a musician to perform at your event, or somebody
Right.
is getting married in your family and you're looking for a wedding photographer, you don't have to go through so many websites or Instagrams and things like that. You directly come to a community. You say you're looking for a photographer in Bangalore, Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai, anywhere that wherever your requirement is, we help you deliver that artist and help you get that service in. Because the thing is, not everyone knows how to judge art and on what basis to hire artists. Let's say if
Right.
if we have two wedding photographers who are there in front of you and we just show you their profile, the Indian market mentality is jo saste mein kar raha hai, let's hire that person. But
Right.
it's not that way. It's really when we're trying to help somebody hire even a wedding photographer for them, we really try to understand from the client that what is the kind of small functions your wedding is going to have, or the smallest of details, so that we know that photographer understands that culture, understands
Right.
these traditions in that particular wedding, and that's why it will help him easily to capture those memories better for you and have a good end result also for you. So this vertical is where we monetize it. We charge a 10 to 15% commission to the client when we help them hire these artists. So that's one monetization way of how we make money. When it was in pre-COVID world and it was entirely offline, this used to go in huge scale. Uh, but because of COVID, offline events have stopped and a lot of hiring has also stopped. So now we're trying to see how we can monetize the community vertical of our organization, maybe through small workshops like we are doing right now, which is this Sunday we are doing a workshop on email marketing for artists. It's not like it's a small ticket size, but that's how we're trying to monetize it, because there's no offline events and no hiring
All
happening
right.
right now.
So broadly categorizing, there are two verticals. The one vertical, which is sounding to me like an agency, like an agent, which is trying to bridge the gap, and that's where you have a commissioned work. And the other vertical is that through the online workshops and the online services that you guys are providing, you tend to sort of earn a revenue through that.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Pavan, on an average, and I wouldn't say, I'm not particularly talking about the lockdown phase, okay? On an average, on a daily day, when there is no lockdown, everything is as normal. What are the obstacles that you guys face? And how do you guys just, counter it?
So the biggest challenge that we used to face pre-COVID world was uh, it was very difficult for people to and I'm saying client in this case. So it was very difficult for clients to understand that good work and good quality of creative work comes with good price. It's not just as simple as okay, if this pen is for 10 rupees, but if it's of a different brand, this would be for $100 or something like that. It isn't as simple as that in the creative segment, in the art segment. And you really cannot even judge based on where this designer has done his or her degree from, or how many clients this designer has, or things like that. It's very subjective and dependent on what exact requirement of the client is. So this was one obstacle that we faced on the client side. Uh, the second obstacle that we faced in the creative community side was, not a lot of artists are very, habituated to having professional negotiations and that professional communication with different clients, because some of these artists are also starting as freelancers in the very beginning of their
Yeah,
stage.
right.
Let's say who is a content writer, this person will not know what contracts to sign before you're getting into a freelance agreement with someone. uh, so these things which were very very much behavioral change that was supposed to be coming in the entire creative ecosystem, that is something that were two of our major obstacles, if I have to say. Other than that, there are obviously small obstacles like, okay, some client does some normal bullshit and things like that and all those things, but these were the two major obstacles, I would say.
All right, all right. So I think it was quite interesting to know that obstacles and how did you guys just face it through. So like coming towards the mainstream question, you just spoke back, like talking about the online space because of the lockdown, because of this unprecedented times, everything has shifted to digital. Okay, there's the digital transcend, I would say, and due to lockdown, people have got a lot of time. The traveling time has cut off, and even I know these guys are working from home, but the traveling time was cut off, and there's a lot of time with the people, and hence the content creation is really increasing on the social media. I would say that there's a content saturation because everybody, I would say in my society, there are 10 new content creators which are generated. I would say someone has started their Instagram page for food, someone has started it for art, someone has started it for photography. So there's so much of content saturation. So is that impacting your business, or is that somewhere not super on a positive end, touching it? Like, is that somewhere touching to you in a negative side?
See, so this is always bound to happen. Let's say, because there is no barrier to entry. Let's say anybody can create an Instagram account, anybody can create a Facebook or YouTube account or Twitter, whatever these accounts are. There's no barrier to enter for anybody to be a content creator. It's as easy as having an email address and then, just going ahead and downloading an app. There is free geo network and all these things. So it's pretty much easy. But what the real challenge is, do you survive for like next 5 months, 6 months? Do you survive for the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months and things like that? Because I mean, this is pretty much, I have also observed that somebody, I mean, this is literally like this in 2017 was the early period when we started. Somebody actually created another platform for artists. Like they literally copied the exact Instagram username and that Instagram bio, same logo and things like that. And I was pretty happy to, just see that. Initial thought was obviously why this person is copying me. But then I thought, can I stop this? Like if I stop this person, can I stop the other 130 billion people that we have in our country or around the world? So I was just like, okay, let them enter, let them enjoy. The whole challenge is, can you execute it really well? Can you survive? Can you sustain it for like 12 months, 24 months, 36 months? Because obviously it's pretty difficult. As I said, even if somebody is starting their content journey during the lockdown, I mean, this is a common notion or common understanding that, oh, everyone is sitting at home and they are there to consume your content. But it's not like that. You see, people are consuming more content to the people who were they already subscribed. It's not like they're consuming new form of content. It's like already they trust Netflix, so they're going to watch something on Netflix. Or if they already are subscribed or like any content creator, like let's say filter copy or mostly sane on YouTube or things like that, they would consume that content more. It's not like they
Right.
will consume new content more.
Yeah.
So
So the
the
people have
content
already established their relationships with the audience. I think they are in a great benefit.
Exactly. So, I mean, naturally, the content consumption of audience has increased, but it's not the new content creators that they are interacting with. It's already people like Filter Copy or Dice Media or Vice News and things like that. So they are consuming that content more, and that's why also Netflix this month announced like 17 original films or series, Netflix original for July and August. So I think they understand that the consumption is more, and this content will be consumed rather than somebody who will create a new food page or a new TikTok or a new YouTube channel. So this is a very big myth or a bubble that's floating out there, that I can be a creator today, I'll create a new Instagram page and everybody will follow me or subscribe me. No, this is not happening out there. Uh,
I
Please
think,
understand.
yeah, that is a big myth which was existing in the society out there, and probably once this episode is out, people will be like, "Oh, is that the reality?" Because if you think that in the lockdown I'll just utilize and create something new and I'll get a lot of creators, I think that's not going to be the case, right? Because already the people who have established their relationship, that networking with the audience, they are going to be in a high gain,
Definitely. I mean, let's
right?
consider to the podcast also. So we took a little break in the lockdown after our season one, and when we came back with the season two of When We Met podcast, and we saw a little rise in the number of listeners. But people who just started their podcast, they still had to establish that trust with them. So
Right.
I mean, there's a difference. It's not like, okay, I'll create a new podcast and, everybody will listen to me or they'll follow me and things like that. There's a big difference, and this myth needs to be spoken of on the internet.
Right, very true. And Pawan, quickly asking you the last question. In the beginning of the conversation, you told me that the online presence has really increased. The offline events have been really scrapped down because of the lockdown, because of the social distancing and the unprecedented times due to COVID-19. So, how long is this impact going to be staying? Or like, when are the chances of reopening of the offline events going to be happening?
See, offline events, at least for India, I don't think unless and until we don't have that vaccine, anybody, can, take the risk of going offline and, hosting something, because let's say we form new tribes of connection, new tribes of infections of COVID because of that offline event. It's a very risky thing. And uh, India's health infrastructure is not as great as of Australia, UK, or US, whatever you want to say. So unless and until we don't get that vaccine and we don't get every person in this country, get vaccinated, it's pretty difficult to do very intimate, engaging offline events. Obviously, something that happened in Germany, where in a parking lot, in everyone was sitting in their cars itself, and there was a DJ who was playing. So things like that can happen. But if you're talking about something like an NH7 weekender or a sunburn happening where everybody is roaming around, hugging each other, drinking beer on the beach, and things like that, it will happen only if every person in this country is vaccinated. Uh, One difficulty that we are creating for ourselves for offline events is that the more and more webinars and online workshops we are doing, we are making people habituated of having them get knowledge and get that entertainment by sitting at their home. So when you open everything and you ask them to go take an Ola, take an Uber, and come to this venue and attend our event through by coming into traffic and things like that, it's going to be pretty difficult to break this behavioral change also, because uh, I really don't want to go to offline events anymore. I really want to enjoy, sitting at my home in my room, and learning everything that I would learn by spending $500 more because of the travel, and spending, let's say, 2 hours more because of traffic, especially people who are in Bombay or metro cities. So yeah, offline events, I don't think so. In India especially, you might see it starting in other countries, but not in India. We cannot, our health system cannot afford more infections and more cases.
Right. So it's going to be taking a long time, a long duration, for the entire offline events to commence. So till that time, I think the PFA is going to be sticking down to online courses and the online webinars and workshops.
Yes, of course. I mean, there's no other
So
option,
for a long
because
run, is there something, any plans that you have got?
so we were thinking of how we can start India's first membership only art community.
Okay. So what is that?
Because it's like, let's say, right now it's totally free for you to consume any kind of content that we are creating, or any kind of blogs that we are writing, or the podcast show that we do. It's completely free for everyone to just listen to it. uh, but if you go into a subscription based model, let's say Omkar will have to pay, for example, $1,000 for a year to be a part of the community, and then get access to all that content that we create, which are very value driven for every kind of artist. Let's say if you're writing a blog about how to create your portfolio on Behance, or how to start your freelance journey and things like that, it's a very valuable content and very valuable piece of information for the members. And naturally, when you pay for something, even if it's as small as $1,000 for one entire year, uh, you take more, you engage with it more, you consume it very consciously, and you consume it mindfully, thinking that, oh, I have spent $1,000, I need to consume this mindfully and cautiously. and consciously. So that's something that we are trying to think about and play around, because today forming an engaging community is very difficult, and it takes a lot of
Right,
effort.
right.
Obviously you
And
can have 100 followers or 100k followers, 1 million followers and things like that, but how many of them get engaged with you on a daily basis?
right.
That's what we are trying to solve for us as of now.
And Pawan, I know that this wasn't the niche, but I'm really intrigued to tell you two more things. When you spoke about this entire community, which is like, a revenue driven model, so wherein it is value driven content has been uploaded, and you give me an example of a portfolio. So let me just take ahead that entire example out. So if I'm talking about portfolio, making a portfolio, if I just go on online and just search about how do I make a portfolio, I get so many links out there. So why
Yeah,
should I go and pay that money and get a content which is like, wherein I have to pay money and then I can get to refer it? Because
yeah,
there will
yeah.
be so many more creators which will be coming up and posting the blogs which are available for free. So do you find a glitch somewhere in this entire system? I mean, definitely you are an entrepreneur, you have thought about it. So this is a kind of a doubt that I have. Could you please resolve it?
So this will be more catered towards the Indian creative market. The blogs that you might see today, let's say if it's related to design, the first blog probably that might pop up will be by this design agency called the Future, and but they're writing it and creating that for a US based creative audience. It's not for the Indian market, and the reason why somebody should trust us with their even amount as like $1,000 is because we have understood the client side of the Indian market, as well as the creative side of the Indian market. So I think that's why you should put your $1,000 in a community and a membership driven community, rather than uh, you know maybe just consuming something not very consciously.
All right. So something here is the content which you guys will be providing here is something for the Indian origin, aligned with the Indian ethics and the Indian culture.
Exactly, like there are smallest of problems, like let's say a musician who's performing at restaurants, like offline gigs, when this was pre-COVID world. So a lot of musicians, they face the challenge that restaurants were not paying them on time. Let's say if today was your gig, and they get paid after 2 months, 3 months, and sometimes they not even get paid. But I'm pretty sure this doesn't happen in the US. So nobody is going to talk about it. But how do you jugadify your ways, and be polite also with the restaurants, and because you want to get those gigs and things like that. So this is something that's very Indian creative economy types, and it's not like, okay, we're just going to talk about what's global scene is happening, or how to get more Spotify listens and things like that. That's something you'll find on the internet. But how do you make sure you build that rapport with a restaurant who's giving you
Okay.
gigs, at the same time also get your money at
A
right
step ahead.
time? And yeah, yeah.
A step ahead. All right, all right. So, Pavan, I think we are at the end of this conversation, and I truly enjoyed having a word with you. And it was quite significant and relevant talking about the amidst the COVID times. So, once again, thank you so much for being on Biz Talks.
Thank you. I am happy to be on your show, Omkar. Thank you so much for inviting me. I hope this conversation helps at least one person, if not a lot of million listeners or anybody, but at least one person who can probably take this conversation insightful and maybe implement in their organization also.
Definitely. So basically, the show is produced by ECELL VCET, which is an institute, which is an engineering institute. So this show is going to be open to like almost 2,000 plus people. So I
Wow.
think you can really bet for like more people than just one.
That's great.
All right. So basically, this was a conversation wherein there is an unquenched thirst on the Pawan side, wherein he's just working hard and constantly trying to chase the ideas, whereas my thirst is really quenched after talking to him about entrepreneurship. So all the beautiful listeners out there, please tune in to Biz Talks, wherein we are always in conversation with some exotic and amazing entrepreneurs. So this was the last episode, the season finale of Biz Talk. Thank you so much for your love and support. Stay tuned to Biz Talks because we are in conversation with tycoons of today. Me, Omkar Chaudhary, signing off for the very last time. Thank you so much.